The airlock hissed open, releasing a sigh of stale air that smelled of ozone and regret. Kale adjusted his rebreather and stepped into the megastructure's primary docking bay. His boots crunched on a carpet of discarded protein wrappers and empty nutrient paste tubes. Behind him, the rest of the Rust Bucket's crew, mostly retirees and ex-convicts lured by the promise of untaxed real estate, followed like a procession of confused pigeons. "Home sweet sarcophagus," muttered Lena, a former demolitionist with a prosthetic arm that doubled as a can opener. She kicked aside a mangled maintenance drone, its optical lens flicking weakly. The bay stretched into darkness, lit only by the emergency lights of their salvaged shuttle. The megastructure, dubbed the Big Empty by its discoverers, was a ring-shaped relic of a long-vanished civilization. It orbited a dying star, its interior a labyrinth of corridors, arboretums, and what looked like ballrooms for giants. "Rule 1, Kale said, raising his voice over the hum of life support. "We don't ask what the stains are. Rule 2, if it moves and isn't us, we poke it with a stick. Rule 3, we claim the best rooms first." A cheer went up. Humans, Kale mused, were the universe's ultimate squatters. Given a dead god's house, they'd immediately start arguing over who got the master bedroom. Luna traced a finger along a wall etched with indecipherable glyphs. The script curled like vines, some sections glowing with a faint, sickly green light. Her translator, jury-rigged from a coffee maker and a stolen AI core, whirred and spat out. Asterisk, beware the devourers. They hunger for silence. Asterisk. Poetic, she said, pocketing the device. Beside her, a man named Boris was attempting to pry open a vending machine with a crowbar. The machine, apparently sentient, responded by emitting a high-pitched shriek and ejecting a can of what looked like axle grease. "Works for me," Boris grunted, popping the tab. He took a swig, gagged, and handed it to Luna. She sniffed it, shrugged, and drank. The devourers, as the locals called them, were the reason the megastructure was abandoned. Massive, worm-like tunnelers that bored through the structure's hull, consuming metal, wiring, and occasionally, squatters. So far, the Rust Bucket's crew had avoided them by sticking to brightly lit areas and making as much noise as possible. Luna's translator had another warning. Asterisk, they fear the loud. Asterisk. "Boris," she said, "you know how to make a lot of noise, right?" Boris grinned, revealing a missing tooth. "I once won a bar fight by setting off a fire extinguisher in a guy's face." Perfect. The first devourer emerged during a power surge. One moment, the corridor was bathed in flickering emergency lights. The next, a section of the wall bulged, metal groaning like a dying beast. Then, with a sound like tearing cloth, the thing burst through. It was 50 feet long, segmented like an overgrown centipede, its chitinous plates shimmering in the dim light. Its head was a maw lined with rotating teeth, and its eyes, dozens of them, black and multifaceted, blinked in unison. The crew scattered. Kale, ever the pragmatist, grabbed a fire extinguisher and aimed at the nearest eye. The devourer recoiled, hissing, and retreated into the hole it had made. "Did we just scare it off?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. "Looks like," Kale said, tossing the extinguisher aside. "Good thing we're so obnoxious." Luna, however, was frowning. That was too easy. They're smarter than that. As if on cue, the emergency lights died. The corridor plunged into darkness, save for the devourer's bioluminescent eyes, now glowing like malevolent stars. The lights flickered back on to reveal the devourer gone, but not before it had dragged Boris into the hole. "Boris!" Lena screamed, firing her plasma cutter into the tunnel. The beam sizzled against the metal, leaving a molten scar. "Save your ammo," Kale ordered. "We're going in after him." Luna held up her translator. Asterisk, they take the noisy first. He's bait. Asterisk. Kale cursed. Then we're bait too. Everyone, make noise. Lots of it. The crew complied, banging on pipes, shouting, and setting off Boris's remaining axle grease grenades. The devourer responded with a deafening roar, and the tunnel walls shuddered. Luna, however, had a different idea. She'd been studying the glyphs, and one phrase kept repeating, asterisk, they feed on vibration. They fear frequency. Asterisk. Find the ship's comm system, she said. I need to broadcast a specific frequency. The comm room was a mess of frayed wires and dead screens. Luna worked frantically, splicing wires and rerouting power while the crew kept the Devourer distracted. Outside, the tunnel walls bulged again, and the creature's scraping grew louder, like nails on a chalkboard the size of a skyscraper. Almost there, Luna muttered. Her fingers flew across the console, bypassing security protocols with the ease of a career criminal. Just need to amplify the signal. The Devourer burst through the far wall, its maw wide. Lena fired her plasma cutter, but the beam glanced off its chitin. Kale tossed a grenade, but it detonated uselessly against the creature's hide. Now, Luna, he yelled. She slammed her hand on the console. A high-pitched shriek filled the corridor, so loud it vibrated the teeth in their skulls. The Devourer convulsed, its eyes rolling back into its head. It let out a final, pathetic whimper and slithered away, dragging itself into the darkness. Silence. Then, Boris stumbled out of the tunnel, covered in slime, but otherwise unharmed. What was that? He asked, rubbing his ears. Music to its ears, Luna said, grinning. The crew celebrated with stolen rations and lukewarm nutrient paste. Kale raised his cup. To the universe's worst tenants. Everyone cheered, even Boris, who'd been declared official bait for future Devourer encounters. The victory was short-lived. The next morning, they woke to find the megastructure's gravity failing. Sections of the hull had been breached, and the ring was slowly drifting apart. The Devourers didn't just retreat, Luna said, staring at a holographic map. They're eating the structure from the inside out. Kale groaned. Of course they are. Why just scare us when they can turn our home into Swiss cheese? Lena, ever the optimist, clapped her hands. Well, we've got a ship. We can just leave. Kale shot her a look. And abandon the best real estate this side of the Orion Spur? Not a chance. The plan was insane, but then again, so were they. They would flood the megastructure's primary coolant system with axle grease, rendering the metal too slippery for the Devourers to grip. The only problem? The coolant system was located in the structure's core, a place no one had ever been. Why do they even have a coolant system? Boris asked, loading his grease gun. Who cares? Kale replied. It's our turn to remodel. The journey to the core was a descent into madness. The corridors twisted like intestines, and the air grew thick with the smell of ozone and decay. The Devourers were everywhere, their scraping and hissing a constant soundtrack to their descent. Luna kept her translator busy, translating warnings like asterisk, the core is their nest. Asterisk. Great, Kale muttered. Just what we needed. The core was a cavernous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. In the center, a colossal Devourer coiled around a massive, pulsating orb, what Lena dubbed the Devourer Queen. Okay, new plan, Kale said, unslinging his grease gun. We grease the Queen, the rest of them slip, and we make a run for it. Luna shook her head. The translator says she's not the Queen. She's the mother. And she's pregnant. Boris whistled. Well, that's just rude. The Devourer mother's eyes snapped open, dozens of them fixing on the intruders. She let out a roar that shook the chamber, and the walls pulsed with light. Time to grease some babies, Lena said, firing her plasma cutter. The battle was chaos. The Devourer mother thrashed, her tail smashing into the chamber walls, while her offspring, smaller but just as aggressive, swarmed the crew. Kale emptied his grease gun into the mother's maw, causing her to gag and retch. Lena fired her plasma cutter at the offspring, melting them into slag. Boris, meanwhile, was trying to wedge a grenade into the mother's side. It's stuck, he yelled. Pull it out. Kale screamed. Boris yanked the grenade free just as it detonated. The blast sent the mother reeling, and her offspring screeched in unison. Now, Luna yelled, activating the coolant system. Axle grease flooded the chamber, coating everything in a slick, viscous layer. The Devourer mother slipped, her massive body crashing to the ground. Her offspring, unable to gain purchase, flailed uselessly. Retreat, Kale ordered. The crew scrambled back to the rust bucket, the Devourer's screams fading behind them. As they lifted off, the megastructure groaned, its gravity failing completely. The ring began to break apart, chunks of metal and wiring drifting into the void. Did we do it? Lena asked, watching the destruction on the view screen. Kale smiled. We didn't just survive. We evicted them. Boris raised his cup. to the universe's worst tenants. Everyone cheered, even the Devourer Mother, one last time, as her massive body was swallowed by the void. The rust bucket turned, heading for the nearest star. Behind them, the megastructure collapsed into dust, a monument to human ingenuity and cosmic stubbornness. Next stop, Kale said, a place with better neighbors. Luna grinned. Or worse. You know how we like a challenge. The ship accelerated into the darkness, the crew already dreaming of their next fixer-upper. After all, the universe was full of dead gods' houses, and humans were always ready to move in.